Halfway through filming World's Greatest Dad, Robin Williams told Bobcat Goldthwait something that made the director want to stop production. Every scene we're filming, the selfishness, the performative grief, the using his son's death for attention, I felt the impulse to do all of it. This character is showing me the version of myself I work every day not to become. Bobcat realized Robin wasn't playing a character. He was confronting his own darkness on camera. It was 2009, and Robin Williams received a script that would make most actors immediately pass. World's Greatest Dad, written and directed by comedian Bobcat Goldthwait, told the story of Lance Clayton, a failed writer and high school poetry teacher, whose obnoxious, unlikable teenage son dies in an embarrassing autoerotic accident. Instead of dealing with his grief honestly, Lance writes a fake suicide note that makes his son seem deep and troubled. The note goes viral. Lance becomes famous. He writes a fake diary, gets a book deal, becomes a local celebrity, all built on exploiting his dead son's fabricated persona. The character was pathetic, narcissistic, morally bankrupt. It was a role designed to make audiences deeply uncomfortable. Any actor taking it would risk their likability, their brand, their career. When Bobcat sent the script to Robin's agent, he included a note. I know this is dark. I know Robin probably won't want to do it, but I had to try. Robin read the script in one sitting. Then he called Bobcat directly. I have to do this, Robin said. Bobcat was shocked. He'd expected a polite pass, maybe through an assistant. He didn't expect Robin Williams himself calling to say yes to the darkest, most unlikable role Bobcat had ever written. Robin, I need to be clear, Bobcat said. This character is not a good person. He uses his son's death to become famous. There's no redemption arc. He doesn't learn his lesson. He's just pathetic and selfish. I know, Robin said. That's exactly why I need to play him. Bobcat was confused. Most actors want to play characters they can redeem or justify. This guy is irredeemable. Robin was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that would haunt Bobcat throughout the entire production. I need to play him because I'm terrified of becoming him. I need to see what that version of myself looks like. Bobcat didn't fully understand what Robin meant. Not yet. They met in person to discuss the role. Robin was unusually serious, none of the manic energy people expected from him. I need you to understand something, Robin told Bobcat. I'm not doing this as a performance. I'm using this character to explore my worst fears about myself, as a father, as a person, as someone who's been famous my whole adult life. What do you mean? Bobcat asked. Robin chose his words carefully. Fame makes you performative. Everything becomes about how people see you. And when you're a parent, that's dangerous. Because you start performing being a good father instead of actually being one. You start caring more about how your parenting looks than about what your kids actually need. And Lance does that? Bobcat said, understanding. Lance does that to an extreme degree, Robin confirmed. He uses his son's death to get the attention and validation he's always wanted. And I need to know, I need to explore whether I'm capable of that kind of selfishness. It was a remarkably honest and troubling admission. Robin wasn't taking the role as a creative challenge. He was taking it as a form of self-examination. Filming began in Seattle. From the first day, Bobcat noticed Robin was approaching the role differently than anything he'd seen Robin do before. Usually Robin brought warmth to his characters, even the flawed ones. There was always something likable, something the audience could connect to. But as Lance Clayton, Robin was playing someone genuinely off-putting, needy, fake, desperate for validation in a way that was uncomfortable to watch. And Robin wasn't softening it. He was leaning into the ugliness. In one early scene, Lance discovers his son's body. It's meant to be shocking and darkly comedic. The son died in a humiliating way, and Lance's first instinct is to cover it up, to protect his son's reputation. They filmed the scene. Robin played Lance's horror and grief, but underneath it, there was calculation. You could see Lance's mind working, already thinking about how this looks, how to manage it. After the take, Bobcat approached Robin. That was perfect. The way you're playing the vanity underneath the grief, it's exactly right. Robin nodded, but he looked uncomfortable. That wasn't hard to find. That impulse to perform grief instead of feel it, I know where that lives. Bobcat was startled by the admission. Robin, you're not like Lance. I hope not, Robin said. But I've felt those impulses. Every parent does, probably. The desire to be seen as a good father, rather than do the hard work of actually being one. As filming continued, Robin's portrayal of Lance became more unsettling. The character's narcissism, his exploitation of tragedy, his complete lack of self-awareness, Robin played it all without judgment, without distance. He inhabited Lance completely. But it was taking a toll. Daryl Sabara, the young actor playing Robin's son in the film, noticed that Robin was quieter than usual between takes. Robin usually joked around, kept energy light. But on this set, Robin was serious, almost withdrawn. Are you okay? Daryl asked Robin one day. Robin gave a sad smile. I'm playing a version of myself I hope I never become. So, no, not really okay. But it's necessary. Halfway through the 3-week shoot, they filmed the scene where Lance reads his fake suicide note at a school assembly. It's the moment where Lance fully commits to the lie, where he performs grief for an audience and gets the validation he's always craved. Robin delivered the scene perfectly. Lance's fake tears, his performative emotion, his enjoyment of being the center of attention, it was all there, and it was nauseating to watch. When Bobcat called cut, the set was quiet. The crew felt uncomfortable. They just watched Robin Williams play someone truly despicable, and he'd done it without any winking at the audience, without any signal that this was just acting. During the lunch break, Robin pulled Bobcat aside. I need to tell you something, Robin said. His voice was shaking slightly. Every scene we're filming, the selfishness, the performative grief, using his son's death for attention, I felt the impulse to do all of it. Bobcat felt his stomach drop. What do you mean? I understand, Lance, Robin said. Not intellectually, viscerally. The desire to be seen as tragic, as deep, as worthy of attention. The impulse to turn everything into a performance, even grief. The selfishness of making other people's pain about yourself. I felt all of it. Robin's eyes were wet. This character is showing me the version of myself I work every day not to become. The selfish, needy, performative version. And playing him is making me realize how close I am to that edge.
Bobcat was genuinely alarmed. This wasn't an actor discussing character choices. This was someone in the middle of a psychological crisis. Robin, do you need to take a break? We can pause production. No, Robin said firmly. I need to finish this. I need to see where this goes. But I needed you to know, I'm not playing a character. I'm confronting something real in myself. Bobcat went back to his hotel that night, seriously considering shutting down production. Robin was clearly using the role to work through something dark and personal. Was it ethical to continue? Was he exploiting Robin's vulnerability? But the next morning, Robin showed up ready to work. He'd compartmentalized somehow, put the darkness back in its box long enough to finish the film. They completed filming. In the final scene, Lance's lies are exposed, and instead of feeling shame, he feels relief. He's finally free from the performance, free from trying to be what other people expect. Robin played that relief as simultaneously liberating and damning. Lance is free, but he's also revealed himself as someone morally bankrupt. There's no redemption, just honesty about how ugly he really is. When they wrapped, Bobcat hugged Robin. Thank you for trusting me with that, for being that vulnerable. Robin nodded. Thank you for writing something that forced me to look at the parts of myself I usually hide. World's Greatest Dad was released in August 2009 to limited distribution. It made less than $250,000 at the box office. Critics praised Robin's performance as courageously dark and unsettling. Audiences mostly avoided it. Robin's team had been right. The role was too dark, too unlikable, too risky for his brand. Commercially, it was a failure. But Robin never expressed regret. In the few interviews he did about the film, Robin was unusually serious and honest. Lance Clayton is the darkest role I've ever played, Robin said. Not because he's violent or evil, but because he's pathetically human in a way that's hard to watch. He's narcissistic, selfish, willing to exploit anything for validation. And I played him without judgment, because I understand him. I felt those impulses. An interviewer asked if playing Lance had been therapeutic.
Not therapeutic, Robin corrected. Confrontational. It forced me to look at the version of myself I'm terrified of becoming. The father who's more concerned with looking like a good parent than actually being one. The person who turns everything into a performance. The narcissist who makes other people's pain about himself. And what did you learn? The interviewer asked. Robin thought carefully. That those impulses exist in me. That I'm capable of that kind of selfishness. And that the only thing preventing me from becoming Lance is constant, conscious effort to be better than my worst instincts. Bobcat Goldthwait has talked about World's Greatest Dad in various interviews over the years. He's always careful when discussing Robin's performance, aware that Robin had been working through something deeply personal. After Robin's death in 2014, Bobcat gave a longer interview about the film and what Robin had confessed during production. Robin told me halfway through filming that he'd felt the impulse to do everything Lance does in the movie. The exploitation, the performative grief, the narcissism. He was using the role to confront his own capacity for selfishness. Bobcat continued, I almost stopped production when he told me that, because I realized Robin wasn't acting. He was using Lance Clayton as a mirror to examine his own darkness, and that's a dangerous thing to do. You're asking someone to stare into their worst self for weeks.
Do you think it hurt him? The interviewer asked. I think it scared him, Bobcat said. Robin was always terrified of being a bad person underneath the comedy. World's Greatest Dad forced him to play that bad person, to inhabit that selfishness fully. And in doing so, he had to acknowledge that those impulses lived in him too. Daryl Sabara, who played Robin's son in the film, also spoke about Robin's intensity during production. Robin was different on that set than on any other film I'd worked on with him, Daryl said. He wasn't the fun, jokey Robin everyone expected. He was serious, almost sad, like he was carrying something heavy. I didn't understand it then, but looking back, I think Robin was going through something while making that movie. World's Greatest Dad has gained a cult following in the years since Robin's death. People who watch it now see it differently, not as a dark comedy, but as Robin Williams willingly exploring his own capacity for narcissism and moral failure. The film hits differently knowing what Robin told Bobcat during production, knowing that Robin wasn't performing Lance's selfishness, but confronting his own impulses toward that kind of narcissism. In one scene, Lance is alone in his room, reading positive comments about his fake suicide note online. He's smiling, enjoying the validation, completely comfortable with the lie because it's giving him what he's always wanted, attention and recognition.
Robin plays that moment without any self-awareness from Lance. The character doesn't feel guilty, he feels satisfied. And Robin's commitment to that satisfaction, to showing a man completely comfortable with his own moral bankruptcy, is what makes the scene so unsettling. Because Robin had admitted to Bobcat, he understood that satisfaction. He'd felt the pull of validation, the desire to be seen as tragic or deep or worthy of attention. He'd felt the impulse to turn his own pain and other people's pain into performance. World's Greatest Dad wasn't Robin's biggest role. It wasn't his most acclaimed. It made no money. most people haven't seen it. But for Robin, it was perhaps his most important role, because it forced him to ask himself a question most people avoid. Am I capable of being the worst version of myself? And how close am I to becoming that person? Lance Clayton is Robin Williams without the comedy, without the charm, without the conscious effort to be good. He's what Robin feared he might become if he stopped fighting his worst impulses. A narcissist using tragedy for validation, performing grief for attention. The answer Robin found while making World's Greatest Dad scared him enough that he told the director he'd felt impulses toward everything Lance does. He'd felt the desire to be performatively tragic, to exploit pain for validation, to make his children's lives about his own ego. And Bobcat, hearing that confession halfway through filming, understood that he'd asked Robin to do something dangerous, to inhabit his worst self so completely that the line between character and actor had dissolved. Robin finished the film anyway, because he needed to see where that darkness led. He needed to know if he was capable of becoming Lance Clayton. And the answer, captured on film forever, was yes, he was capable. The impulses were there. The only thing stopping him from becoming Lance was a conscious, daily choice to be better. That's the real story of World's Greatest Dad. Not a dark comedy about a bad father, but a document of Robin Williams choosing to examine his own potential for narcissism, exploitation, and moral failure, and having the courage to show everyone what that looked like.